Bharat, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
I think you've given us a phenomenal opportunity to ask you so many questions. 38 years as Mercedes-Benz. Why are you associated now, out of all the places, with the University of Alabama, trying to bring the applied technology, as you say, to students here?
Yeah, I made the change because it got boring sitting at home, washing the dishes and doing gardening. And the plant manager here at Mercedes-Benz in Tuscaloosa and the dean of the college asked me to come over and work here for a couple of years. And I have three challenges. One is training the faculty and making them teach courses which are more applied in the fields of automotive engineering. The second is getting more industrial R&D projects so that faculty, students work together with the industry. And the third is to set up a proper research institute in the state of Alabama.
Why did it take a plant manager to think of this versus, because when you look at Detroit, and you go back 100 years, the invention was happening right here, right? So one used to wonder, what happened, do you think, in the past 3-4 decades that students started getting away from applied technology and focusing more on the IT and other aspects, and they left this out?
I have a very extreme opinion about this. If you look at the three countries, Japan, Germany and the US, at their automotive companies, US companies were very sales driven. So the guy at the top was generally a guy who was either from finance or from the sales side. Japanese companies are very manufacturing driven. German companies are very engineering driven. And I firmly believe you need to have a footing in engineering and manufacturing if you want to be successful in sales. And somewhere along the line, in about 50 years ago, the United States automotive industry invested increasingly less in new innovations, in product development, in product design, and increasingly more in sales and sales pitches. That is not going to work if there's no intrinsic substance in the product. And I think that's where the United States lost out in automotive engineering, and with that, probably also the university system taught less and less of applied engineering courses. This is totally different in Germany and in Japan. In Germany especially, we have a very close collaboration between industry and university. When I was a student, after passing out of IIT Bombay, I joined the University of Karlsruhe and I had 5 professors, adjunct professors from industry. The CEO and chairman of Daimler Benz taught me car body engineering. The head of research and senior VP taught me automatic transmissions. His deputy taught me vibration systems. Another director taught me advanced engines, and a guy from Porsche taught me vehicle dynamics and tire dynamics. So very close association, and generally senior management carries it on. I, for example, have been teaching at the Technical University of Berlin various subjects in automotive engineering the last 20 years. So I'm already an honorary professor before coming here. And this close cooperation between industry and university in Germany has led to a high level quality of engineering students, as also to a high level of innovations. When I came over here, I had a lot of culture shock, because here we were teaching a lot of subjects with very little background on what is really happening in industry. When I look at the professors here, I would think hardly less than 5% have had any real industrial experience. A professor in Germany needs to have 10 to 15 years experience, otherwise he's not going to be nominated a professor. And the system has led to the following in the United States, that professors need tenure, they need to apply for funding. This funding comes from National Science Foundation. This is research 20 years down the line. And so the topics that they teach and the research that they do have little industrial relevance for the immediate 5 to 10 years. And that's part of the challenge that I'm facing now, to reorient these universities, especially the University of Alabama. And as you know, the southeastern United States has a very powerful automotive industry from the Japanese and the German manufacturers.
It's interesting for somebody to sit back and not pay attention to these things until something like this happens. And you wonder, if you look at Detroit and the area of Detroit, you'll think the top three would be so involved, closely working with the high institutions of learning. But if that is not happening, that was not happening rather, I don't know if it's still happening now. When do you think and how do you think somebody's going to set up and take notice and learn lessons? I mean, you're giving class examples from Germany, but if you go down even to Korea now, who's trying so hard to attack their segment, I mean, I'm trying to learn what is it stopping the US companies from investing in these resources for the future?
I think the first thing that you need to do is to make science, technology attractive for the younger generation. President Obama is trying to do this with the STEM program and through his $1 billion financing of the manufacturing initiative. STEM is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. This needs a lot of initiative and power to remain on track for the next 5 to 10 years. Whether the American society has this attention span, I would not know. You need to get students interested in science and technology. You need your top students to come to the engineering graduate schools. The engineering schools need to teach them applied engineering, and then over the years, slowly you can change the system. For me, it's very interesting when I talk to, we are all Indians, when I talk to the children of my Indian friends here in the United States and ask them would they consider working in an automotive industry, they laugh at me, they look at me unbelievingly as if something I'm totally out of my mind. It's not priority 1 or 2 or 3, it's not even priority 10, it might be priority 20. And this is totally different in Germany. If you ask a young guy what does he want to do, certainly in the top 10, the automotive industry, the supply industry, the chemical industry, the electrical industry, all engineering oriented or science oriented is going to be in the top.
But that's, to be fair to the kids, growing up here, that's the focus of the region, because that's been engineering focused and automotive industry focused. But here lately it's been either IT or medical sciences.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So you can't blame the younger generation not paying enough focus. But whoever has to pay focus in that particular segment, like I said, the manufacturers, the government, and the university should have taken more initiative, at least to bring a required number of good engineers out of the population.
Some are doing it, and for me there are two very good examples. Even though I speak of a former competitor, the best example is BMW in Spartanburg, South Carolina, who together with Clemson University and the state of South Carolina set up a fantastic automotive research institute to teach graduate students with an investment of about $250 to $300 million. A second good example is the Center for Advanced Vehicular Systems in Mississippi State University in Starkville, set up together with the University MSU, together with the state of Mississippi and with Nissan. And this is something which I am trying to also to do in the state of Alabama, and it's taking a lot of effort. We have 4 automotive companies in Alabama: Honda in Lincoln, Hyundai in Montgomery, Toyota Powertrain in Huntsville, and Mercedes-Benz in Tuscaloosa. And we need to generate added value through this university industry partnership. And there are a lot of dire warnings on this point. If we are not in a position, or let me begin the other way around, when Mercedes came here 20 years ago to the southeastern United States and all others followed, the basic equation was cheap labor, cheap land, good tax breaks, good water, cheap electricity. Now today this is no longer a winning equation. You get it cheaper in Mexico, you get it cheaper in China and India, and you already notice it. If you look at the automotive investments in the southeastern United States last 3 years, 2010 to 2012, it's $4.4 billion versus Mexico, same time frame, $7.7 billion. So the writing is already on the wall. You cannot compete solely on the basis of costs. You need to bring in something more, and that something more that I'm trying to bring in is a proper automotive research institute which generates innovation, and that is our topic here today. At the IIT conference, which generates innovation, which does industry university projects, which churns out much better qualified engineering graduates who again, when they go into industry, can generate more terrific products. So you need to build up an ecosystem which cannot be duplicated very easily in competition markets. Otherwise, one fine day, all these industries will also be moving down to Asia or to Mexico.
I am very tempted to ask you this question. You've been there, almost 4 decades. Even today, in spite of the boom in the consumer market with various brands, Mercedes is still a car to have. If you go back even a decade, if in the emerging economies, if you had a Mercedes, that means you have arrived in society.
Yeah.
But if you look at India, okay, a huge middle class.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I remember Mercedes was the thing to have.
Yeah.
Then BMW entered.
Yeah.
Now Audi
is also
is the thing to have. They don't, So what I'm trying to ask you is, when you talk about positioning in the emerging economy, that's where your bigger market is going to be in the future. Is how do you, try to compare yourself and position in the right frame of your consumers with the other two?
Yeah, I think I must be cautious in my answer because I'm no longer with Mercedes-Benz. Now I'm independent, so to speak. I'm at the University of Alabama. So my analysis is the following. In traditional societies, Mercedes has always sold very well. So we are the top leaders here in the United States. As also we have a very powerful market in Germany and Europe, in England, etc. While we have been rather traditional, our customer base has also been traditional. Advertising which drove us nuts in India, where Audi advertised Mercedes-Benz, the car for your father and uncles, Audi, the car for you. Now, even if your father read that ad, he was going to say, boy, I'm not such an oldie, I think I'll switch to Audi. So a lot of people are doing that, as also here. And so Mercedes has started over the last years to make its brand more younger and not only traditional. So in the United States now they have brought out the CLA, an entry-level car based on the AB class platform architecture. It's a $29,900 entry-level car. It's having tremendous success. Yeah, and it's all the younger guys who are buying it. And at the same time, Mercedes has launched a all-new S-Class, where I had a dramatic part in the innovations. More than 2/3 of the innovations were done by my group. And it's also having tremendous success with the traditional guys. So I think you need to balance both sides. So in the United States, Mercedes will finish 2013 as the #1 luxury brand. In China, they need to compete and catch up with Audi and BMW. And in Europe, it's a close race. So certainly, there will come a time where Audi will try to catch the traditionalists. They already have the youngsters, and we are trying to catch the youngsters. And BMW somewhere in between these two brands.
Yeah. One final question on the same competitive analysis, the Japanese. When Lexus came out, so they tried to present that as the best of the quietest and the best in luxury market. Where do you think the Japanese, if at all, didn't compete enough or come up to the level where they are really competing beyond Lexus with the luxury?
Japanese manufacturers, as I said, they're manufacturing driven. So they have excellent, efficient manufacturing base. So when they offer you a car, they're offering you very good value for money because of their manufacturing base. The Lexus, when it first brought out its initial model, it did a thing which was acceptable in the American society and acceptable in Japanese society. They copied the masters. So if you looked at the first Lexus, the front and the back were copies of Mercedes.
Yes.
And there were some things where, it was flabbergasting. If you looked at their suspension subframe, no one looks at it. It's underneath the car. If you look at it, it had identical dimensions to the subframe of Mercedes. Yeah. So the engineers, they looked at everything. If they didn't understand it, they said, don't change it, copy it straight. That's it. And they were very successful, and they attuned to the American taste. For example, good cup holders, low noise level, excellent interior setup, etc. But they didn't move forward. It's not enough in the automotive market to bring one shot and then sit back and say, okay, the customers are going to keep coming. If you look at Lexus today, they are trying to find their own design style, and they are not quite managing it. If you look at the styling of Mercedes, BMW and Audi, both have strong, in their own product lineup, they have a strong image. If you look at a car coming from in your rear view mirror, you can at once recognize it's one of these three brands. If you look at a Lexus, you don't know what it is. Is it a Toyota, is it a Honda, or is it a Mazda or something? Yeah. So their brand perception in their design has not translated well. Secondly, they have not been able to keep up with in all levels where German manufacturers try to be balanced. For example, Lexus is excellent in hybrids, but beyond that I wouldn't know what it's excellent at, other than to say, yeah, they make a very good car. But I can't say its suspension is very good or its driver assistance systems is very good. So you really don't know what is luxury about a Lexus. Yeah. Whereas German manufacturers really try to sell you the top of what they are doing. If you look at the Mercedes brand, you'll say, okay, it's the best in safety, it's the best in comfort, and then it's very good in powertrains, in execution, in styling, etc. And this balance is missing in the Japanese manufacturers. And you also don't see it in Honda Acura or in the Nissan Infiniti brand. They're all struggling. Yeah? And if you go away from the United States, these brands have almost no significance.
Sure. Right. Such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.